Alright guys, now it is time to talk about the midtones and start looking at the shadows. But one thing I wanted to talk to you a little bit about first is I want to show you that I have two different brushes here. I have one that is most definitely smaller than the next. And you can always grab more than one brush if you feel that is something you need, because I'm going to be doing both small areas and light areas. So I may need two brushes for this area. So today we're going to talk about the midtones. So I have two brushes, and the midtone is really the one that is your main color. So if you remember, I was using this this violet red, but this is your straight up color. The blue, the red, the orange, whatever the one it was that you got that is your main hue. This is the one I want to talk about first. So I have on here most of my lights done. Not all of them, but I have most of my light areas done. And I'm going to look in my photo and figure out what tone seems to be the one that's in the middle, that has, I wouldn't really call it dark, I wouldn't really call it light. It has to be somewhere in the middle. So I'm looking actually, say like this tone that I have right here. It's got it's a little bit of a shadow, but it's also kind of light tone also. I have it here, I have it some at the base of my chin, I have it like at the bridge of my nose and around my eyes some. So that's the one I want to work on first. And I'm actually going to like generalize, it's a lot in my forehead. So I'm going to go over some of the larger areas first with my larger brush. And one thing I also want you to think about is also how you kind of tackle some of the areas in your painting. So like right now, I'm doing kind of some back forth brush strokes. Also, I'm going right up to this tone, but I'm probably going to have to put in one of my midtones in there because it can't be that light tone going right smack dab into my midtone. It would be too dark, or too abrupt, I should say. So I can't do that. So I have some here, I have some over here. Now, what about some of these spaces where I've painted them already, but I don't want there to be such a dramatic line, because if I just leave it like this, as you can kind of see, like it just looks like I have this triangle there and it looks very abrupt. It's like almost too jarring. So what I'm actually going to do, and I'm going to do this with my smaller brush, so since this is wet already, I'm going to go back and grab my next value that I had next to it, and I'm actually going to go right along that edge with that tone of paint. And if you look, as I go along that edge, it kind of picks up that tone that I had next to it, and I can use that to kind of blend. Now I'm going to wipe my brush off so it's dry. So there's no paint on this brush right now. And I'm going to go back into this dark area, and I'm going to try and pull it into that lighter color that I just did. This is how you create a little bit more of a blend from one color to the next. That's what's going to make things not seem so sharp and jarring, is to do that little bit of a color blend. See how that softened that shape up a little bit? That's what you're going to want to start to do. So especially in some of these areas where it looks a little funny, you may want to do that. So like I have my smaller brush still, so I'm going to come over here to where this shadow area is. And yet again, because I'm looking at my photo, and see how there's just like there's the dark space, but it just gradually turns a little bit lighter. So I can take my midtone color and kind of try to blend that in. Can even put a little bit of light back on top. This is that mid-tone color, just so it does a little bit more of a transition. So you're going to want to transition some of these things a little bit more to keep them from looking so abrupt and funny. So if you have something and it's looking really too chunky or choppy for you and you don't like it, you can go back in and do a little bit of a blend. So I'm going to kind of look for all these areas that have this mid-tone, something where it's dark but not shadow, not full-on shadow. So darker than the color I had around it. Now see, some of this, like if I just pull this over to the color that I have, it doesn't look that bad. It doesn't look as abrupt and jarring. Or if I go over here, because of the size of the shape that I had before, this doesn't look so strange without doing a little bit of a blend. So you have to kind of use a little bit of your best judgment to decide what makes the most sense as far as how you're going to paint in some of those shadows and values and what it needs to be. I'm going to keep painting this so you can see what it should look like with the mid-tones. And good luck. Okay.